Alright, what's up everybody? Dcgreen here. I have decided to watch/react to some Predator reviews. As you may know, I just released a 2-hour long review/rant/breakdown/analysis. There's a lot of stuff going on in it that's highly negative and critical of the film, with good reason, that I'm sure I'll go over here now. Again, I figured the next logical step in this process is to watch what people who enjoyed the movie have to say, mostly to see if there's really anything to check my own perspective against, to see if there's really anything that I missed. But I don't think that there is. In fact, I'm not saying that this movie has no value, but I would say that there's value in it, but this would be my argument, is that there is value in it, but it's mostly targeted at a very, very young demographic. And so all the value has a very low ceiling on it. It's not anything above average or really worthwhile in the grand scheme of things, or even does anything unique or good. This movie does not make the Predator franchise more robust. It does the opposite, in my opinion. I go over this in my video, but I really struggled with my feelings with this movie when I left the theater, mostly because there is a movie in there that's, I guess I would say fine, but it's not fine to my standards. But I think that a lot of people will hand wave the things in it that I find insulting to my intelligence, such as the scene on the train where Deck escapes because the robots don't have cell phones, basically, that's my argument in a nutshell. Go watch the video if you want to hear me actually elaborate on that. I go over that scene, and I think I spend at least 10 or 12 minutes on that scene. Maybe it's less than that. I don't remember specifically. Go watch and find out. The other thing I want to preface is there's been a lot of videos that are reacting to Critical Drinker, which I don't want to do that. I've seen his video. I share his sentiments. I think he's right on the money, and he explained it pretty aptly. I've seen some takedowns of people that were critiquing him already. And I will say that one of the biggest things that you notice when you watch things like that is how bad faith people are when dissecting people's analysis and review. Especially somebody like Critical Drinker, who's obviously playing a character and being intentionally flippant and vulgar, and people will hang on every word that he says as if it can only be taken literally, and they won't extend him the good faith to read between the lines of what you should come to expect now if you ever watch one of his videos. I just want to establish that as a tenet because that's one of my values. I come from the EFAP sphere of film criticism, and so I value objectivity and just being honest about the things that we saw. That doesn't mean that you're not allowed to like it. We all like movies that are not that great because for some reason they just give your brain the fuzzies in a way that you really like. And so I think that that's okay to have those things, but you start to do a disservice when you call movies good or excellent, or you diminish all other movies, because there are movies out there that, people... I would be surprised if anyone tries to say that Predator is as good as Lord of the Rings. And that's kind of an issue with a lot of these people that criticize movies, and they use this number scale, and everyone's afraid to give anything lower than a 6, right? Because they don't want to admit that there is this unconscious degree of self-preservation where they don't want to admit that they watched something that would technically be, by that definition, of a lower number, or a number not between 10 and 6, that they've ostensibly wasted their time and consume something that is valueless. They don't want to mention that. And this might be a topic for a separate video, but I actually myself have started to move away from using number scales on movies. I don't think that they're incredibly apt, and I think that movies are not really served well by trying to kind of aggregate everything that they do and then come up with a collective number and then measure their deficiencies by that. Because something that made me come to this epiphany wasn't necessarily even movies, but the recent game Silksong. which my entire playthrough of is on my channel, by the way, if anyone's interested in watching that. There's some good rage bait moments and stuff like that. Just scroll to the part where I get the bile water. Anyways, so Silksong is a game that is so well realized, and the creativity and imagination that was put into it is, from the creator's point of view, flawless. They flawlessly carried out their vision and executed on all their ideas. Does that mean the game's flawless? No. The game's incredibly hard and punishing and brutal in some points, to the points where, to the degree where I was raging and going red in the face and going on belligerent rants just to vent so that I could continue to focus on the game. Anyways, my realization was this is, my gut reaction is that I can't give Hollow Knight less than a 9. Right? It's so good, even though it has all these problems. But I just don't really feel, the more that I reflect on that, I just don't feel that that's, I don't know if a lot of people would agree with that. I think Silksong was contentious too. So I think that most people would not agree with that, and they would want to give it something lower, maybe an 8 or even a 7. I even think a 7's fair. But, so I think that it's better to serve things by putting them in a tier, from S tier, A tier, B tier, C tier, D tier, and F tier. So in that regard, I think that Silksong does belong in S tier of video games. That is my subjective opinion, but I would do my best to support it objectively if someone really wanted to press me on it. I would appeal to the execution of the mechanics, the story, the art direction, the music, the creature design, the realization of Fairloom, all of these things that are brought to life. The game is, I think it's objective that the game is worth more than the sum of its parts. Anyway, so I don't really like anymore rating movies by a number. I would personally, because I can do whatever with my tier list whatever the fuck I want, right? I would personally put Predator Badlands in F tier. I think it's a terrible movie. I think that the damage that it does to the Predator completely outweighs anything that you might be able to find of value, because why would you even want to waste 98 minutes watching a movie that the good stuff in it has nothing to do with the Predator, because the movie is very distracted with deconstructing and subverting what the Predator previously was in the prior installments and what the popularity of the character was built upon. If you were going to press me harder about, okay, be fair to the movie, what tier do you think it goes in? I still think it goes in, and I'll be real that above S tier is Lord of the Rings tier. Actually, above S tier is Quentin Tarantino tier, and then above that is Lord of the Rings tier, and those are the only movies that belong in those tiers. I think Quentin Tarantino is just an exceptional filmmaker, and I think he's got 8 films at this point, maybe 9, and 6 or 7 of those belong in their own tier because they're exceptional. Talking Django Unchained, Pulp Fiction, Kill Bill, Inglourious Bastards, Reservoir Dogs. I really like Hateful Eight as well. I might have to rewatch it again soon with a more discerning eye. I've heard some other people push back on that one being one of the greats. Anyways, and then of course Lord of the Rings, which is the best trilogy made of all time. The 3 best movies that have ever been made. They'll never be topped, and they always get to sit in that tier. That's my opinion on those. That's how your list would be organized. And if you want to get an idea from me, Inception would be S tier. Terminator 2 would be S tier. Predator is S tier. If we wanted to go something lower, A tier, The Dark Knight. I haven't really thought about this too long to come up with examples on the spot here, but yeah, hopefully that gives you kind of an idea. If I think of other stuff later, I can mention them. So without further ado, I've picked a couple videos. I'm just going to comment on some of the things that they say, and I haven't watched any of these because I wanted the reactions to be genuine. I tried to pick videos that had over 10,000 views with channels that have between 10,000 and 100,000 subscribers. That's my metric. This one is Predator Badlands is actually a big moment for the franchise movie review, and I don't know whether this is going to be positive or negative. I wanted to try and find mostly positive ones, obviously, but this was one of the few ones that I found that kind of met my criteria. It's only got 7.7k views, but it's kind of in this sweet spot. He's got 46,000 subscribers. He's got almost 8,000 views on his video. He came out with this 6 days ago. The video is pretty short. It's only 6 minutes. We're just going to see what he has to say. I'll pause it as I see necessary.
A youthful predator. A young member of their race. One of their teenagers, perhaps. How many ways do you think they'll be able to find to avoid the phrase child predator?
I appreciate the comedic bit to open the video. I feel like that's a real obvious one, real low-hanging fruit. I'm pretty sure I've read it in Reddit comment threads a million times at this point, but fair enough. You know, you can't fault anyone for using humor.
Trachtenberg, I'm convinced, would probably sell his own children to have a real-life Yacha son. Like, if you introduce this man to Arnold Schwarzenegger, I'm convinced his heart would just give out. He must love this franchise so freaking hard. His first film in this franchise came out.
Yeah, I'm just going to stop him here because I feel he was making a point there, and I think he's drawing it out into a little bit of a tangent, so I want to catch it while it's fresh. But I totally disagree with this. And let's be fair to Dan Trachtenberg, because I do think that he showed a decent grasp on what Predator is supposed to be with both the previous movies that he made in Prey and Killer of Killers. I felt Prey showed that he understood the fundamentals of the franchise, even though I don't think it was executed on properly, but he did try and do the thing that a lot of us wanted to see, which is Predators in different timelines, right? Fighting warriors of different strides of history. For the most part, he gave us a pretty faithful rendition of the original premise, right down to Naru using some kind of mechanism to mask her body heat to avoid being detected by the Predator thermal vision. Then in Killer of Killers, I'm critical of all the story beats that lead up to them fighting the Predators, but honestly, it's a movie full of vignettes. Those don't need to be banger. Like, they act as soft launching pads to get us into an action scene about the Predator to just, again, showcase how the Predator would fare against warriors from different time periods. And the action in it, I thought was great. I think that the fight with the Viking lady where she's under the water and she tricks the Predator and she gets a chain on him and it gets tangled up in the water and it causes him to drown. That's exactly what you want to see when humans have to fight Predators, because they're not physically stronger than them. Most oftentimes, you need to see them outsmart them. I felt that delivered on that. The second story is the story of the two Japanese brothers, and the Predator loses to them because it's more of a 1v2. But the action that showcased is great. I'm not a really big fan of the plane one. Like, that was just, I have no interest in seeing the Predators fly ships and shoot World War II planes out of the sky. Whatever, you do you, man. But that one was a big miss for me. And then especially the ending, I thought was a pretty big letdown. That would be the really big point of contention for a lot of people, because the last part where they're in the big Predator arena, I don't remember exactly what happened, but I remember it being pretty dumb, and I don't like that they all escaped. It would just work way better as a contained story if they overcome the Predators on Earth, they get abducted to the Predator home planet, and then of course they just get slaughtered. That's where their story unfortunately comes to an end, and they meet a warrior's death, and they're enshrined in Predator history forever, because they're ones that were able to, dying on the Predator homeland in the arena. In order to even get there, you have to be a great warrior. These deaths would have been very narratively satisfying for these characters, even if they would have been ostensibly tragic. So I just thought that was a big missed opportunity to have your cake and eat it too, and make the guy fucking hijack a Predator ship at the end with, it's just very flimsy. Man, actually I probably come down on that movie way harder than I think, because I actually haven't thought of that ending very much. I remember after I saw it, I was like, I'll just disregard all that because it's just a lot of bullshit. But at least the action was really, really cool. And as a Predator fan, I've just been starved of anything good for so long. And I think that has a big part to do with the reaction of this movie. Is I think that, and I admitted this in my video as well, that when the movie started, is like I was so giddy because all the scenes from the beginning of the movie have Predators in them, and so you're just like, oh my god, it's fucking happening. Like, we're actually doing a movie with Predators as the main character. And I think that high and that desire to want to have been served something you've wanted for so long is just a fucking copium that people can't get enough of right now, and it's really blinding them to all the deficiencies in this movie. And not only that, but my biggest gripe with it is how much stuff about the Predator it betrays and also squanders. And it just sucks because these movies, they get bought and consolidated under these corporations, right now Disney, and I just don't think that it's ever going to get relinquished. So for every movie that gets made that is, when are they going to stop letting Dan Trachtenberg make Predator movies now? Because I don't want him to make them anymore. And this is also what I was going to say earlier when I was touching on being fair to Dan Trachtenberg, is how much, because he did two okay things, right? There's two things, they've got their issues, but there's really good signs in them. And so what happened? And is it his fault, or is it Disney? Is Disney just great at killing talent and making it soulless. I don't know. I don't know if this is all Dan Trachtenberg or if a lot of it was Disney telling him that he has to, giving him constraints that his own talent couldn't shine within. We'll never know because they're all under these NDAs and he's not going to go out there and shit on his own movie. We may never know, but the cynic in me suspects that maybe this had more to do with meddling than him himself. But at the end of the day, his name is attached to it, so I think it's fair to assign blame to him as well. This guy sounds like he's jonesing with what Dan Trachtenberg's doing. I mean, maybe Dan Trachtenberg would fucking sacrifice his own kids to get a Yautja child. I guess I wouldn't disagree with that, but based on this movie, I just do no longer believe or have faith that Dan Trachtenberg ever really understood predators or what was neat or cool about them. You know, remember in Prey, he does make it so the predator shoots itself in its own face with its own gun. That doesn't happen in any other movies. The predators don't kill themselves. They're very much dispatched by the person that they're hunting through more conventional means and not something so impractical and egregious that simultaneously reflects poorly on the predator. Predators are designed to lose, but we want to see them lose in clever ways. I mentioned in my video the thing that's so awesome about the showdown in the first Predator movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger and the Predator. The Predator does start acting pretty cocky against Arnold Schwarzenegger. I mean, he's meeting him where he is. He dresses down completely and has a melee with him. But he is flexing a bit in terms of how outmatched Arnold Schwarzenegger is, to the point where Arnold Schwarzenegger is completely exhausted, bleeding out, crawling on the ground for his life, and he crawls to his trap that he set that is multifaceted. It has a part that is supposed to be a decoy for the predator to think it's outsmarting it, and then Arnold Schwarzenegger lures him into a spot where he leverages the pride of the predator against him, lures him into the exact spot where he drops the log on him and defeats him. You compare that with Naru, where Naru gets the predator to like shoot himself in the own face. It's similar, but it's more disrespectful to the predator. I'm sure we could have achieved a similar result without doing something that makes the predator seem dumb and out of character in a way that we haven't seen before.
Like 3 years ago, and as of this moment, he has released 3 films in this franchise. How is that? What? Predator Badlands stars Elle Fanning taking part in the year of dual roles. What is happening with that this year? For real, so many people doing dual roles anyway. And also,
don't really have anything to say about that.
Demetrius Schuster-Koloa-Matangi,
the main actor that plays Deck,
who by the way also plays dual roles. Yeah,
he
like
oh okay,
both
he's
leads
just
play multiple roles. Many of the other characters are CGI.
This is a part that I actually cut out of my video. I thought it would have been cool if they had cast Dakota Fanning as Tessa. That would have been kind of neat to have both the sisters acting in the same movie. Just a thought. I don't really care about this dual roles thing. I don't really think it's relevant. So, this is just this guy's opinion. He's commenting on it. We'll move on.
This was probably the single shortest cast list for a blockbuster film I've ever seen.
Okay,
anyway, so Deck is a predator, or Yautja. You just know that Dan Trachtenberg was that kid reading all the Predator franchise tie-in novels and going and telling his parents all this information about Yautja that they didn't.
This isn't the first time we've ever heard of Yautjas, so I don't think that this is worthwhile. He had the fucking audacity to call their home planet Yautja Prime, which is pretty lame. It shows a lack of creativity, in my opinion, which bore out in the movie as well. On the whole, so no praise for me here. I think this is all pretty moot. He's subject to his opinion, but I don't think there's anything valuable to glean here.
Care about dreaming that one day he could make that term more well known to people just watching the films. Anyway, Deck is cast out from his clan for being a runt, but this short king's going to go for a big slam dunk when he goes to an unkillable creature hunt on the most dangerous planet in the universe. And also the Weyland-Yutani Corporation is there, and he meets a synth who helps him out.
I'm going to just pause here because there is some stuff that I want to say. I want to comment on the runt thing. I don't feel like the movie establishes well what makes Deck a runt. They say he is, and I will be honest that I did not notice in the movie that he was shorter than Quay. I didn't pick up on that. It didn't seem important to me. I just don't think I noticed it. Maybe I did notice it, but my brain was just like, well, that doesn't matter because, people all over the world are taller and shorter than each other. So this is just, two guys with diversity and height. I don't think there's anything special here. And then when you examine Deck's attitude, he's really fiery and has that Yautja spirit. So nothing about him really comes off as deficient to me. The narrative beat where his father shows up to kill him, it feels forced and contrived, because if he had shown up and rather approached Quay and Dec non-aggressively, and Dec makes a proclamation for himself that he's going to go hunt the Kalisk and defeat it to prove himself, and then gets the father's blessing. I just think that that story beat works out way better, because then the father's not a dick, and Quay gets to live. And the next part, which is a huge issue that I fucking have with the movie, is that then you could have Dec go to decide that he's going to hunt the Kalisk and go to that planet in a way that gives us the opportunity to see how predators operate before a hunt. What kind of things do they do before they have to go? How do they survey the planets? How do they find the species that they want to kill? When they do pick their target, what kind of things do they already know about them? What is pre-established? How does that inform the weapons that they bring? These are all things that we just get denied because they have to have this fucking contrived family drama, and then they shunt Dec into the ship unconscious, and he just ends up in orbit of Genna and then crashing into the atmosphere. This is the issue that I take with people hand-waving this early part. These are the opportunities that were squandered with the Predator protagonist premise. You've now denied us a gigantic part of their whole identity. It would have been cool to see explored in a movie exactly like this. I just hate how no one shared that criticism. In my video, I showed a clip from Alien vs. Predator Requiem where Wolf is on his ship and he's reviewing security footage of the Predalien breaking out on a ship, and then he goes to the wall and he picks his mask and he types in the coordinates. Even a shitty fucking movie like Predator Alien Requiem at least had some curiosity to explore those things and give us a little bit more. But this movie, where the Predator is the main character, they just don't seem to care about doing anything like that. And then we'll go on to see with the rest of the movie that he really doesn't do anything. That if you had to come up with things that you thought you were going to see in this movie before you saw it, you pretty much saw nothing. So I don't know, man, just low standards with people. I don't get it. It's not enough for me just for there to be a Predator on the screen. And I'm fully willing to admit, as I said, that seeing those things did get me giddy and excited, but you have to fucking deliver on that. You can't just show the fucking thing and have that be enough. You have to come with it. And this movie didn't come with it. It came with a bunch of other shit that nobody wanted. Anyways, let's let him go on.
By the way, them being there makes this just by default pretty much the best Alien Predator tie-in film. The others are real bad. So these two team up to hunt the creature. There's other.
He was mentioning earlier that Weyland-Yutani was on the planet, and that's when I paused it. So he was just finishing that thought that he thinks that this is the best movie that has alien elements and Predator elements in it, and I would disagree. It's probably Alien versus Predator. I don't think that movie's very good either, and I bitched about that movie in my review also. Somehow fails to deliver on the easiest premise in the world for an entertaining movie. But I think this movie is horrible, and I don't really think that Weyland-Yutani is served well at all in this film, which is another huge thing that I go over in my video as well. Go watch that.
Synths from the corporation on the way. It's a lovely little setup, you know, a bit more complicated.
Sure, I thought the setup I thought that the setup was cool. I was interested in the idea of him being on this planet and finding a Weyland-Yutani android that would then act as some kind of medium for narrative exchange in the movie for the audience. As long as it was done subtly and sparingly, I thought it could have worked really well. But Thea is a loudmouth comedy dispenser. The second that she starts speaking, that was when I completely checked out of the movie.
And Prey, because that was such a simple idea. This is them getting back to the, okay, that was a fun little standalone idea, Dan, but how is this franchise getting back into making money? Just blood-curdling amounts of money.
So here's something that I'd have to look this up, but I don't think that the Predator franchise has ever been like a gangbuster moneymaker. I think most of the Predator movies do okay. I think that they could be. I thought this one could have been, and I think that its opening weekend is indicative of that. I think it had such a strong opening weekend because of how potent the premise was. But I'm recording this on Saturday. It's 10:30 p.m. right now on the West Coast. I saw the Friday drop-off was like 78%, which thank fucking God I made that prediction in my video that this movie wasn't going to do well because it would have bad word of mouth. And I think that that's exactly what happened. I think a lot of people went in hopeful and a lot of people came out disappointed. And I think that the second week box office results are going to speak for that. And I think that this movie is going to go on to be a flop. I think that there's a lot of comparison to be invited to Alien Romulus, but Alien Romulus is more of a greatest hits product. That was the approach that they took. Just fucking make a movie with xenomorphs and facehuggers again, and in it we'll reference as many things as we can in the old movies. And I think that got people in nostalgia balls and distracted them from, dude, I don't know how anybody can like a fucking movie where a bitch falls through a fucking elevator shaft and the fucking alien catches her with its tail, doesn't kill her after impaling like 5 other fucking people in the movie with the same tail. I just don't understand that. That's and that's not even the most like egregious fucking thing in the movie. There's so many other things in that movie that I take issue with, but that was one of the biggest glaring things in that movie for me, that I just can't believe that anyone would be like, oh yeah, I like that, that's good. That one fucking scene where we give the main character Insanoflex plot armor, get the fuck out of here. Now I don't remember what this guy was saying because I'm pissed, so I'll let him talk again.
So they're definitely back on that train, but they're having a fun ride as they go.
Oh, he was talking about he was talking about the movies making money. I don't think they make a lot of money. I think that this one could have, but I think that now it's gonna flop, won't do well because of word of mouth. And I think that that's proving true. I think that this could have been the start of a Predator franchise that did make a lot of money at the box office, but you didn't give anybody what they wanted. You made a movie for 9 to 13-year-olds. You made a Predator movie that you can go see with mom instead of dad, right? You don't have to ask dad to go see this one. You don't have to say, Dad, hey, there's this R-rated movie that I need you to take me to, and we can go see it together, and it'll be like a male bonding experience. God knows that men in America, there's no lack of opportunities for bonding with their fathers, right? They're all doing so great. This is now a movie that you can go and see with your mom, and she won't hate it. She'll be like, oh, I'm surprised how funny and silly the robot was, and that little monkey guy, he was so cute. That's this fucking movie, so that's why it's not making any money.
Great character. I would not mind if we do franchise him up a bit and have a few films.
Nah, Dex lame.
Because honestly, it works, and it was an idea. I was a little bit worried about going in and having him as the protagonist, but it works.
Why would you ever be scared of having the Predator as a protagonist? It's such a good fucking idea. It's so there's so many things you could do with it, and all of it would be interesting if you just showed him observing things and taking things in and acting physically. He doesn't even need to talk. We could just constantly be seeing him analyzing stuff through his mask, and it's just there's so many things you could have done, man. This is a colossal failure for you to have done this movie and not made it successful or appealing. It's actually fucking crazy. It's just as bad as making a bad Alien vs. Predator movie. How do you fuck that up? How do you not say, oh, well, the thing in the movie that we want is this temple where there's aliens, and we're going to send 3 predators there, and they're going to fight them. Boom, done. That's the movie. Fucking cut everything else out. We don't need, and take it off of Earth. Just put the temple on fucking Yautja Prime and have it be a gauntlet that young predators have to go through before they're allowed to hunt, or have it be the fucking Chalice dungeons where it's something that they do after they've been on tons of hunts to prove their prowess, whatever. But you didn't need to have any humans in it. And again, it's like, I don't know how you missed these fucking layups, man. These are the easiest fucking movies to make ever, and you fuck them up every time.
Elle Fanning is also just great. I think she's so good for this role. She is fantastic as Thea. She's also great as
I love Elle Fanning, by the way. I've loved her since I saw her in Super 8. Thought she was really great, and I actually thought she had a brighter career ahead of her than her sister. But it just feels like she's not really in a lot of stuff, at least stuff that I watch. So, I mean, for the material that they gave her and the way that they wanted her to do it, I think she's fine in this movie too. But I just didn't want to see her in this movie doing this character. So
Tessa. This is clearly a shift for the franchise. It's a 12 or PG-13 certificate, and that's kind of weird. Big scary predator monster kills many androids. Not ever, humans or anything. There's no blood. Well, no red blood in this film. There's no gore. It is noticeable. I'll say that. It didn't really bother me too much. It's.
I'd also say though that I didn't really feel that the way that the violence was presented in this movie was the issue. The issue that I take in this movie is not that the action is lacks gore or lacks blood or lacks any kind of like viscerality to it, but it's that all the enemies that Dec fights in the movie are lame as fuck, and they're cannon fodder enemies, and they all pile onto the screen and all get dispatched with no effort or challenge whatsoever. Again, when comparing the end of the original Predator movie, the state of Arnold Schwarzenegger in his victory, Arnold Schwarzenegger, when he drops the log on the Predator, he sighs a huge sigh of relief, and he just sits there and rests. He has to recollect himself because of everything that he's fully exerted from fighting the Predator. And the log starts to move, and he panics. He has a shot of adrenaline because he realizes that he's not done with his enemy yet, and he gets up and he picks up a rock and he's ready to smash the Predator's face in. And it's only when he realizes that the Predator is completely crippled and gushing blood that he throws the rock away, almost sympathetically, almost out of curiosity, because then he fully looks at the Predator and he says, "What the fuck are you?" And you compare, and again, prior to that, he's got blood coming down his face from his forehead. He's crawling on the ground. He's fully exerted. And if you compare that to Dec, dude, Dec is just fine. Every battle, he's just not challenged at all. He doesn't suffer any kind of... He almost dies a bunch of times, but I don't prefer that either. I don't prefer... Well, he almost died, so that balances out the fact that he's not challenged. No, I'd rather see something where he's fighting fewer enemies at a time. The choreography is more deliberate and purposeful rather than him running up to people with a sword and screaming, which is very uncharacteristic of a Predator, and the enemies just all getting sliced in half and exploding and posing no threat. There's no tension in any of the action scenes. That's the real problem with them. It's not that there's no blood. It's not that it's the fact that there's androids and so they've got white fluid in them, or that when you pop their head off, you see sparks instead of guts. That's not the issue. The issue is that they're not threatening enemies. It's not interesting or fun to watch Dec destroy them. That's the issue. It doesn't have anything to do with the blood. Now, if you did it the way that I suggested, where there's less enemies and they do actually pose a threat, you could throw all the blood and shit that you want in there, and if you think that it'll make it better. But I think that you could have kept the level of gore and blood the same and turn that one knob of reduce the enemies but make them more clever. And I have a clip of the Raid Redemption in my video where Rama has to fight 4 guys in a hallway, and it's such a good fucking fight, and the choreography is just so crisp. I had to rewatch that movie after I put it in the clip in the fucking review because it's so good.
Fine, but it was somewhat noticeable the fact that they toned down gore so much, and a lot
That's
of the
not what you
action
noticed,
scenes,
my guy.
I wouldn't say it.
Your brain craved engagement, my guy. Your brain was like, I'm eating all this screen time and I'm not getting any nutrition from it. Yeah, I know, man. That's what Disney does.
Fucks them up by doing that, but it does maybe detract a little bit of something at times when you feel like there should be something more there, and it's just, you can't.
I agree, man.
Every scene
but it's not gore.
Put your finger on what's wrong with it, but you can sense there's a little something there anyway. I did feel the.
Dude, I go over this in my review too, but it's established, and this is something that I fucking hate about Hollywood, and it's something that kind of became an open secret after Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, is that for whatever reason these creators or these editors, or I don't know who explicitly at fault for this, but they have an issue with showing something use a power more than once. So if you recall, because how could you fucking not, because it's a literal Deus Ex Machina in the movie, that when Dec and Thea are getting eaten by the Luna bug, when it's pulling him into its mouth with its tongue, and it's got him wrapped in a way that he can't launch his wrist blade to escape, Bud jumps into the mouth and does this hardening thing where the Luna bug then bites on him and breaks its teeth, which causes him to drop Dec and Thea, which saves them. And later in the movie, when Dec is fighting the Calisk, there's a part where Thea starts shooting it with a gun to distract it, and it doesn't harden its skin to reflect the bullets, which would have been something cool. It would have been another application of that ability that is similar but different from the first application that we saw that I would find interesting. And maybe that's something that the movie is lacking that has nothing to do with blood or gore. It would have just been something unique and clever and novel that there's no reason we only have to do it once. And then again, in the final confrontation, Bud is just he's just punching fucking robots. He's just punching them and they're destroying. And it wouldn't have been cool to see them all open fire on him and he hardens and reflects all their bullets back at them. But no, man, it's the fact that there's no blood and there's no gore. It's not the fact that literally nothing creative happens in the movie. That's what it was. It's the lack of content that would have made this movie an R rating, because that would have fixed all the problems if this movie had just been R.
Absence of that, but also something about them just bringing it down to a 12 made me think, because they tried so hard and so obviously with The Predator to go for this kind of more modern blockbuster appeal, and they made that feel just like a Marvel movie, but an R-rated one. This doesn't lose as much of its sense of self.
Man, that's a really interesting comment, and I haven't seen The Predator since it came out in theaters. This movie felt like The Mandalorian to me, and it's very similar, right? Where I was disappointed by The Mandalorian as well. I fucking hate that show. And the reason is because you go in thinking that you're going to see a bounty hunter, and they give him a fucking baby, and then he has to take care of the baby the whole time. He doesn't get to go on bounty hunts. And same with The Predator. You think he's going to go on a hunt, and instead he gets stuck with a fucking girl that he has to babysit and a fucking monkey, and so he doesn't get to hunt anything. His comment about it being like Marvel-y but R-rated, they need to get away from this. Have your own voice. Have your own identity. Don't be like, oh, well, we'll be a Marvel movie, but all our jokes will have fuck in it a lot. Deadpool. Except Deadpool, the first two Deadpool movies are actually clever and leverage the R rating beyond what you would expect from it. They utilize it in a way that elevates the property rather than is just a known fact about it. Sorry, he just wanted to comment on the Marvel thing. So I just wanted to say that I felt this movie, this is another thing that smacks about it being a Disney movie, is it has that fucking feel. It has that warm, fuzzy, made for kids feel to it. And I don't necessarily remember that with The Predator, but I remember The Predator being kind of edgy in a juvenile way, not really in a respectable kind of way. There's ways that you can be edgy and respected. Movies like Blade do that well. They really lean into the cool factor and kind of how edgy Blade is. A more recent movie that did that well is Mortal Kombat movie that came out a couple years ago. That movie does a pretty good job at balancing that edgy tone in a way that's endearing to the movie overall. So anyways, that's just a weird fucking aside.
Even bringing it down to a PG-13 certificate, as that did staying at an R rating, that really felt... To be fair, I'm saying that this isn't much like a Marvel movie, but this cast of characters is
it's more like a Star
Wars
Wars show.
Coded. You know,
what did you say coded there?
Characters is very clearly Guardians of the Galaxy coded.
Oh, Guardians of the Galaxy coded. I mean, I feel Guardians of the Galaxy gets an unfair rap at this point because it's almost like people just lack creativity to draw the correct comparison, but I don't think that this is very Guardians of the Galaxy. It's way more like The Mandalorian, if anything, and I don't really think that The Mandalorian is trying to rip off Guardians of the Galaxy. I think that this is a failure to broaden what he would have compared it to. So not a knock against him or anything, but if you had thought about this a little bit more, I don't think you would have landed on Guardians of the Galaxy.
You know, going in, despite knowing that Trachtenberg is on a roll, I was a little worried about this one. I didn't love the idea of the Predator as the protagonist. I think that what they've done with it, the direction the franchise is generally
I don't know why you wouldn't want that.
It's a lot better than I thought it was going to be. It works better having a Yautja as the protagonist.
All right. I mean, he's only got 4.5 minutes left in his video. And he just mentioned something that he has a problem with, but he thinks that the movie did well, and I don't think he's going to substantiate it. So I would love to hear his thoughts on why he thinks it worked, even though he was doubtful. Let's see if he substantiates it.
I still don't think it's perfect for me. I feel like they just work so well as the antagonists. It's tricky, and it's a personal preference thing. It is a shift in the franchise that's as seismic as when they first went, oh.
Could it have been that he says it doesn't work as well as the protagonist as it does as the antagonist? Could it be because they've completely betrayed everything we know about the character and they subverted it and deconstructed it? Could it be because they didn't actually let him do anything cool? They didn't let him stalk or hunt or observe or use any of his interesting technology or bond with other members of his culture that expanded on the way that we we interpret them and respect them. And instead, we're immediately introduced to them as Neanderthalic barbarians who kill their own and are brutally ruthless in a way that's off-putting. And then he ends up on a planet and just swings a sword for an hour and a half instead of doing anything that we normally see the Predators for. You'd have to make a case that like a Predator protagonist could not work in any capacity, and I just don't think that that's the case. I think that this movie failed to do it, and I don't think that that means that the premise is faulty. I think that this movie squandered it and had no ambition.
What if Godzilla wasn't actually the evil creature? And that was groundbreaking. That was huge. And maybe this will be too in the long run. I feel like this is a very strong film. It's not. You know, with the Alien and Predator franchise.
Look at that his realization after what he said.
That was groundbreaking. That was huge. And maybe this will be too in the long
run. Look at the like his eyes looking up to the right. Well, maybe this will be too. Right here, watch.
And that was groundbreaking. That was huge. And maybe this will.
Look at that. He's like, maybe this will be. He's like thinking. He's like, am I full of shit right now? Am I speaking truth, or am I just talking out my ass right now because I feel bad that I wasted $25 to see this in IMAX?
Will be too in the long run. I feel like.
And again, says it and then looks at the ground, completely unsure of his statement. It's okay, man. Don't sweat it too hard.
Like this is a very strong film. It is, you know.
That shrug, man. Oh, look at that. Oh, man. Look at that grimace. Like this is a very strong It's a very strong film. Is,
you know.
Oh, shoulder shrug. Oof. Oh, looking up at the sky. Oh, the pressed lips into the head tilt. Oh, God. This guy is not comfortable lying.
Alien and Predator franchises, I feel like you generally either get something great or trash. And this is...
Yeah, dude, let's count the amount of things that have been great and the amount of things that have been trash. So there's Alien, there's Aliens, there's Alien 3, which is not super great. I would say that one's probably more in the middle, which kind of disproves your point. And then there's Alien Resurrection. I would definitely say that that's on the lower end, but I would say it's on the lower middle. I wouldn't send it all the way to the end of the spectrum. And then there's, what other Alien movies did they try doing after that? I don't think they did any after that, right? It was the last one that they tried doing. It was, oh no, there's all the fucking Prometheus movies, right? Those are trash. Prometheus and Alien Covenant. And did they make a third Prometheus movie? I thought that they only made Alien something. I'm pretty sure there's a third one that's also bad. And then there's Alien Earth, which, when I was still grading things on a number scale, I actually think that Alien Earth is a 0 out of 10. So that's complete garbage. And then Alien Romulus, which I think that movie's like absolute trash. So we've got two really good ones. We've got one in the middle. We've got one on top of the low end of the pile. And then everything else after that is garbage. So we're kind of in the territory with the Alien franchise where most of it's garbage. And then same with Predator, because we have Predator 1, which is the gold standard. We have Predator 2, which is the best sequel. And I'm willing to give Prey the third spot. I think that all the other Predator movies have been bad enough that Prey sneaks into third place. But I would definitely put it more towards the middle, maybe leaning low end of the spectrum. And then you've got AVP Requiem, The Predator, and Predators. Oh, and Killer of Killers, which, I think Killer of Killers probably belongs in the bottom somewhere too. Even though I really like the action, I just don't think, again, after reflecting a little bit on that ending, and I'd have to watch it again, and I bet if I did, I'd throw up. So this is not... There are, well, see, this kind of like betrays this guy's opinion of things. He's just a total simp for Prey as well. Guys, have some nuance in your take. These movies aren't all good or all bad. They have elements to them. They have value in some of their ideas, and then they have problems in a lot of their execution, and that's usually how you have to weigh it up. And I'm totally fine saying Prey's goods outweigh the bads, but the bads are still there. It's like 51-49. It doesn't mean a landslide, but it just means that it did edge it out, and I'm happy to, concede that. But let's be honest, it's not fucking working any miracles.
It's not trash. I can say that definitively. This is a really interesting watch. It's a really...
You really haven't substantiated that, man. You said, you've you've made a lot of faces that make me think otherwise, and you haven't complimented the movie at all. You've discussed your doubts about the premise. You've said that you don't really think that this was a very successful version of a Predator protagonist, that you prefer them as the antagonist, and you've said that you like the movie and that it's a strong movie, but you haven't substantiated that at all. Did it have strong themes? I would argue no, because the whole movie is trying to set up the theme of protecting people and valuing loyalty and friendship and dedication of others. And at the end of the fucking movie, the mommy callus explodes, implodes, and is shattered into a million pieces, and nobody gives a fuck. Nobody even reacts to it. Nobody mentions anything about it. No, the first fucking line of dialogue after Mommy Callus explodes is Thea looks at Deck and says, "Deck of the Yautja," like he just had some fucking heroic moment after his team just suffered a fucking casualty of 1. Not 0, 1. Someone is dead.
Watchable sort of film.
Oh, it's watchable? A watchable sort of film?
As the third best Predator film, I still don't think it's quite as good as Prey, and it's not as good as the original Predator for me. I think.
Whoa. So his ranking is Predator, Prey, Predator, Badlands? Holy fuck, man. How is everyone so hard on Predator 2? God damn, rewatch Predator 2! It actually does cool shit with the Predator. Namely, the fucking scene where he creates a medicinal balm out of asbestos. It's fucking awesome.
Sixth overall, if you're talking Alien and Predator films, I think I've got a
okay. Let's not convolute the
right
ranking system.
This is a strong watch, and I really did enjoy it. I enjoy a lot about the writing. I think it very nearly slips.
What specifically, my guy? This, and this again. I mean, I didn't want to choose a 6-minute video, which is funny because I've talked about it now for an hour. Although I did have a pretty big preamble before I started this video about my general thoughts. I probably haven't taken an entire hour to only dissect this guy's 6 minutes, but you really haven't substantiated any of your claims. You're just asserting that you liked it and that it feels good and you like the writing and you liked, but like what specifically did you like about it? Or were you just happy to see the Predator on the screen? And that's okay, but please examine what actually that feeling is, because I like that too, but the product is not good. And it's not something that's worthy of praise. And you should punish them for doing this by not buying tickets to the next thing and not buying anything associated with this movie. Don't buy any of the merchandise. Don't watch it on Disney or Hulu when it comes out. Pirate this shit. Watch this shit online. Find rips of it. Do not give them engagement on this. They do not deserve it. Make them fucking come begging and crawling back to you like, "Oh, please, DC, what can we do? What kind of movie can we make to please you? Please, we just want to make you happy. We just want to get your money in, but we want you to like feel good giving it to us so that you'll keep giving it to us later down the line." Then fucking earn it. Fucking come with it. This was not it, and clearly this guy can't explain why it was if he thinks that, which he clearly doesn't, because as we saw earlier, he couldn't even say that he liked it with a straight face without grimacing and fucking tilting his head and doing all that shit. Could you imagine if you told your wife you loved her and your face did all those things while you said it? She'd fucking divorce you tomorrow.
Overly cheesy American blockbuster territory at times. It never quite gets there. It holds itself back enough.
No, it doesn't.
And I really appreciate it for that. And I think this is the kind of sci-fi film we want to see more of.
No.
And we have been getting more of recently. We're getting there.
Oh.
So I'm giving that opening on Yautja Prime really made me think I was watching June again. 4 stars.
Well, this guy gives me hope. Look, he's got some Patreon tiers and stuff like that. I can do this, right? I can get some people to give me money per month for my unhinged rants.
Yep.
And bad takes and flagrant disregard for people's volume levels. Anyways, yeah, this was not very impressive. This was kind of like what I was expecting, but this was really shallow. I mean, he didn't really bring up any good points, right? But he said some things that were fun to comment on, at least, because there's a lot going on with this shit. This is what happens when people are excited about something and then they go see it, and it just takes a while for that feeling to really, and I don't know when did this guy make this video. It says 6 days ago, November 9th. And so I saw Predator on November 6th. So he released this video on Sunday. Assuming he went and saw it on Friday. Well, shit, man. He probably saw this on Sunday, right? He probably saw this. Even a 6-minute video. So he probably saw it and then came home and shot this video out and put it on his channel. And that's just what happens when you try and do these out of the theater reviews, is you really betray the way that you actually feel because you haven't allowed yourself to ruminate in your own feelings and emotions. And as I mentioned in my video, my thoughts upon leaving the theater were really conflicted because I desperately wanted to like the movie. I was totally incensed by it because of the deconstruction of the Predator. But at the same time, the movie that I ended up sitting through, it's like I went to go see a Minions movie or something like that. How badly do you walk out of those movies really hating them? They're pretty dumb and lighthearted and family friendly, feel good. So it feels weird to hate it when you walk out of it. And that's kind of how I felt about this. When you strip away the fact that it's a Predator movie, this is kind of a movie that, man, is it really worth the energy to hate this? But then when you add back that Predator component, yes, it fucking is, because it's a giant betrayal to everything that made this character interesting and that would have made the Predator protagonist premise in itself interesting. So I think, Chris, come back to us. Come back to us with a. It's been 6 days. Come back to us with a week later reflection and elaborate on your thoughts, please, because you really said nothing in this video. I wasn't expecting you to say much because it's 6 minutes long, but holy shit, you said nothing. So please make a video reflecting on your thoughts a week later. I'd love to hear what you actually thought. And if you want to reach out to me and have a fuck conversation about it, man, let's do it, because I feel like I could mine some real emotion out of you. I could mine like an actual response out of you. This didn't seem candid. This seemed you were trying to be like algorithm friendly here. Let's have a chat. Let's be authentic. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And anyways, that'll be it for this one. I'm gonna do a few more. I will catch you on the next one. Thanks so much for watching.